Hey folks, my name is Mo Amir and this is VANCOLOUR, British Columbia's bona fide culture and politics TV talk show. Tonight, BC Green Party leader Sonia Furstenau joins us to discuss why you should be concerned about former Premier John Horgan's new job. But first, our featured guest is an award-winning journalist who has been with the CBC for over 2 decades, and for a lot of folks, he's the very first voice they hear as they start their workday. We made a good team on CBC Vancouver's election night coverage in October, if I may say so myself. So I figured, why not just do it here on Check, the host of CBC Radio's popular morning show, The Early Edition. He's also Mo Senior's favorite interviewer in the city, even more favorite than me. He is Stephen Quinn. Stephen.
How are you?
An honor, a pleasure. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much for having me. You're right. Election night was a blast. We couldn't even see each other. We were in 2 different studios.
I could hear you laughing and clinking beer bottles from across the studio, though.
No, they weren't beer bottles. It was a Red Bull.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Red Bull cans.
I heard some
falling
sort of
off the podium. Yeah.
There you go. Nice to see you. Is this late for you? Like, you're up so early. Are you just ready to go to bed?
Not just yet. I usually have a little nap in the afternoon. I did today. I took a few minutes to take a little nap so I could be somewhat refreshed.
What time are you usually up then?
I am up just after 3 o'clock, 10 past 3.
3 o'clock?
Yeah.
What is happening at that hour?
Nothing. Very little. I wake up, I tune into Metro Morning, CBC's Toronto show, to just hear what's going on there, to kind of get the idea of things, and take a shower, and then I'm out the door just before 4 o'clock, and I'm usually at work at 4.
Wow. Yeah. Now, you are catching Vancouverites and British Columbians at a very unique time. You know, they're starting their day, they're getting things together. Do you think that Vancouverites, British Columbians, are morning people in general?
I think it's changed a lot since COVID, actually. Okay. I think that they were more morning people before COVID, and that it's kind of dropped off. And we actually see that when we look at, our listenership. We can see that we have many more listeners after, 7 o'clock, 7:30 than we used to.
Right.
But we also have a really great contingent of really early morning listeners who are there from 5 until 6.
Yeah.
And there's this sort of handful of great people, but we start out, we do very well early morning because there are still those early morning people out there. We try to give them special attention, I think.
And your show does something very special compared to other talk shows where you are interacting with listeners live on Twitter. And of course you have callers as well. So I'm just curious about what you're noticing in terms of the general mood of your early morning listeners. Like, are they pumped up? Are they, do they want the news? Do they want banter? What are they looking for in the morning?
A lot of people want to hear something that makes them feel good now.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. And that is
Are you telling me people don't want to be depressed with everything that's going on in the world?
But this is a palpable change because, I was always very staunch about, just deliver the news. If they don't like it, they could turn it on. No. But we're really conscious now of trying to give people a mix. And I think, I love Amy Bell dearly. I love working with her. When she comes into the studio every morning, she comes in just before 5:30, and it's like, oh, it's so good to see her. And it's really, to me, that's the lightness that comes out of the show, is when Amy and I get to interact throughout the program, when I get to talk to Scott Regehr or Phil Dumont or whoever's coming in, that part of it, we do have to do, you've got to go to some pretty dark places sometimes. Also conscious of the fact that, I think of myself as a listener, when I had small kids and, they're sitting around, you're trying to feed them breakfast. And remember when my youngest son, when he was quite young, we were doing something in the kitchen, and he was listening. I had the radio on in the background, and he said, "What is up with all this sexual assault?"
Wow.
And I thought, wow, he's really listening.
Yeah.
And hadn't even occurred to me that he was picking up on everything that was.
So you're trying to perk up people as they start their day because that's what they're looking for. But you are notoriously grumpy.
Not really.
To your own admission, you've said
I am a little bit grumpy. I don't, and I don't mean that. I hope people don't take it the wrong way. Is there a right way to take grumpy? I was just, can we talk about the dog?
Sure, yeah, you have a dog now?
I have a dog now. A lot of people would think I'd be the last person in the world to ever get a dog.
You wanted this dog for a long time.
Yes. Yeah. But Jen Suk Fung Lee tweeted today, she just said, "Stephen," and block capital letters to me. And I said, "What?" And she said she was worried that it was going to interfere with my particular brand of grumpiness.
Right.
That I might become a nicer person. I hope so. I'm sure the people I work with hope so as well. But no,
for their sake, I hope so.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah,
it's a distraction, and I'll become even more tired than I was.
On the topic of grumpiness, I feel like one topic in this city, in this province, that continues to make people grumpy is housing, and this has been going on seemingly forever. Where are Vancouverites with this issue? Like, I imagine it's still the number one issue for most households. And I don't know, I feel like they just want action. They kind of want to stop the debates and the talking. They just want things to be done. What's your read?
I tend to agree, but it's how to do it that no one can seem to agree on. And it's always the tension between let the private market lead, public housing has to lead, or subsidized housing has to lead. You have to build purpose-built rental housing, otherwise anybody who rents is at the mercy of the person who owns the condo that they happen to be staying in. When we talk about grumpy, the divide, when you think about the city, the divide, I often think of, they're sort of have and have not, but it's people with houses and people without houses, people who own homes and people who don't own a piece of property. Because the people who own homes, everything is tickety-boo, don't raise my property tax too much, just let me, I bought this for $620,000 and now it's worth, $2.1 million, yay, and everything's working for them. Everybody
don't tax me because I made a good investment.
Well, right, yeah. And then there's Christy Clark, who always said that she didn't want to do anything that would take away the hard-earned equity people had in their homes. And I'm like, what, for breathing air for 15 years? No, it's I am currently not a homeowner, but I have been, and I've been a renter as well. And currently I'm a renter, and I've been very lucky to find a reasonably, priced place for my son and I, and my youngest son and I. My other kids are off school, so. That's the tension that I see right now. And you also see, cities where there is purpose-built rental.
Right.
And like historic purpose-built rental, like Toronto or Ottawa, Montreal. Sure. I mean, and that's, you're a second-class citizen if you're renting in this city. That's basically what it comes down to.
Are we spineless centrists who can't pick a side, or is the political climate in this province and this country really that polarized?
I think it is that polarized. I think it's an import directly from the United States, the tone of our politics right now, the division in our politics. And I think it's, it's identity politics being played on both sides, being played on all sides, not just two sides. We saw that in the early days of the convoy with how Justin Trudeau identified the people who had arrived in Ottawa to the convoy. And we see it every day in how, people who support Justin Trudeau are regarded. It's this, as they'd call it in the United States, the East Coast elites or something like that. And we somehow got to a place where being smart is bad, being university educated is bad, having opinions based in fact makes you a sheeple. Everything's inside out and upside down. I swear to God, I do not know what's going on.
Does part of it have to do with there is certainly an elite class of politicians, maybe even media personalities, that just are not able to empathize with regular folks and how regular folks live their lives? Like, I mean, I'm thinking about David Suzuki today saying that, we shouldn't be traveling. And he's telling people, as this multimillionaire, to completely change their lifestyle or goals and ambitions they might have. So doesn't that play into it?
Well, David Suzuki's always low-hanging fruit, right? I mean, he's the guy that the right likes to pound on and say, David Suzuki was in an airplane, and he, that somebody bought emissions credits.
But then on the
as a result,
on the right, you have people that were advocating for trade liberalization and no regulations without thinking of working class people or industries being gutted that were very important to communities. So I mean, ultimately, haven't people in power kind of done it to themselves in a way?
I guess. I mean, politics is complicated, and running an economy is turns out to be complicated.
Yes, yeah.
And it also turns out that nothing is black and white, and that everything is cause and effect, and that when you pull one string, something else happens. There are many unintended consequences, and you have to weigh the balance between doing good and doing harm, I suppose, and trying to benefit the biggest group of people and the people who need the help the most, not trying to benefit the people who are going to vote for you and support you in the next election, which is where we've come to right now.
In a private conversation between you and I, you said that this political polarization has happened and it's no accident. What do you mean by that? Like, you're saying it's by design.
It is because it works. We have...
It works in terms of winning elections?
Yeah,
okay.
It works in terms of winning elections, and it works in terms of gathering support. Everybody wants to be part of a tribe. Everybody wants to be, it is almost tribalism now, which is where we are.
Yeah.
We identify with one group of people. We support that group of people. We take our cues from that group of people. We take our media from those people. It's the old echo chamber thing, but I've never seen it as clearly defined as it is now. And there's just no talking to someone who disagrees with you. Yeah. There's no middle ground. There's no point. There's no coming to... So
is that the difference between today's climate and what we had maybe 20 years ago or even longer, 30 years ago?
Well, we probably had that 20 years ago, but I don't think it was laid as bare as it is now. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it was... people used to be embarrassed by stuff. Politicians aren't embarrassed by anything anymore.
Right.
It's just, there's nothing off limits. There's nothing too stupid to say. It's just, it's like, hey, I'm just going to try this. Why don't I just say this? And,
what would you like to see back off limits that you think it is a very troubling trend that politicians have no qualms about expressing?
I don't know. I would just like to see the sort of return of decency and the stop telling people who they are and then attacking them for it.
Right.
Which is again what we get on both sides. And I wish there were some way, something for all Canadians to get behind. And, with us at the CBC, and I'm certainly not going to speak for the corporation, the reason I wanted to work at CBC forever, long before I started working there, was that you reach all of Canada. You go from coast to coast to coast. You have a national conversation. And you really, truly do. And you get to hear other Canadians in very different circumstances. People who live in the North, people who are Inuit, people who are First Nations, you get to hear people from right across the country. And you get to consider things outside of your own small little space. Yeah. It's outside of your neighborhood, it's out of your city, and suddenly you're hearing about Mi'kmaq fishermen and you're thinking, oh, that's something to consider, isn't it? And to me, that's the value of it. It doesn't, and somehow the CBC haters have kind of turned that into a bad thing.
Right.
And I don't know how.
Yeah. Well, in terms of that aspiration, you're very good at that. You know that I'm a fan, and I think you do bring together a lot of diversity and a lot of different voices on your program. So I appreciate your work, and I appreciate your time tonight. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Folks, one of the best in the business, host of the Early Edition on CBC Radio. He is Stephen Quinn. Now, we will be recording some overtime with Stephen to discuss whether or not the City of Vancouver's honeymoon with newly elected Mayor Ken Sim is over. So find This Is VANCOLOUR wherever you listen to your podcast for that chat. Now, after the break, BC Green Party leader Sonia Furstenau will explain why former Premier John Horgan's new gig is so problematic. Up next.